How do you communicate effectively? I'm going to cover this interview question and answer so that you can nail this in your next interview. There are 3 important things to remember when you're answering a question like this. So one is to structure your answer. Separate it into parts and make your point clear to keep it clean, concise, and memorable. And I'll show you how to do this. 2 is to make sure that you include an example. So I'll show you how to do that. And 3 is to reference multiple communication styles to demonstrate your flexibility and understanding, and also include your own communication style as well. I'm Amri Celeste, your interview coach, so let's get started. Now, if you're going into a role that involves communicating with clients, customers, colleagues, or management, which is most roles, then you'll need to know how to answer this question. It's really important to understand the variations here because you won't always be asked this question directly, and the interviewer won't always be looking for the same elements in your answer. So they might ask about workplace communication, your communication style, and the elements that make up effective communication at work. Why? Because they want to understand that not only can you communicate well, but you understand why it's important and how to assess your own ability to communicate. So here are the key elements to address in your answer. 1 is that you consider others when communicating, and this could be by email, in person, by phone, or in a large group. You need to take into account other languages, learning styles, and sometimes how to keep others engaged. 2 is that you have flexibility. So you need to be able to communicate with a range of people that will have varying listening and communication styles. And 3 is that you have some level of self-awareness on how you communicate. So here are a few other variations to look out for. What is good communication? How do you communicate? What is effective communication, and what is your communication style? Now, how do you communicate effectively is not assessing your behavior or asking about a specific situation where you had to communicate effectively. So it's not a behavioral or situational question. It doesn't mean that you can't include a situation and an example, but it's not asking for that. This is a competency-based interview question. It's assessing your competency and your ability to perform well in specific areas of the role that require effective communication. I cover the top 4 in this video, covering the top 4 competency-based interview questions and answers. So I'll link that video in the description below. Start off your answer with a summary that might look something like this. I think effective communication is a crucial skill in any professional setting. It involves much more than simply conveying a message. To communicate effectively, I believe that it's essential to actively listen to the other person and understand their perspective. To me, listening is a crucial part of effective communication. I always strive to be clear and concise in my communication, using language that is easy to understand and avoiding any jargon that might confuse others. That summary could work for any role, and the key part is the listening. A lot of candidates forget to include the listening part, which is really key. Now, here are a few role-specific examples so that you can see how this works for specific roles. So the first is a project manager. When I was working as a project manager for a software development team, I needed to communicate complex technical requirements to both the development team and non-technical stakeholders. To do this, I made sure to break down the technical language and use analogies and examples that the non-technical stakeholders could understand. I also held regular meetings with the development team to discuss any issues or concerns they had, and I made sure to actively listen to their feedback and ideas. By communicating regularly in this style, I was able to suggest solutions that worked for everyone and ensure that the project was delivered on time and within budget. So that's a simple and short answer specific to a role, and the example centers around regular communication. So steering away from industry jargon that could alienate others, and that way ensuring effective communication. Depending on the role you're interviewing for, these are really effective points to include in your answer. The next is an example for a customer service rep. In my current role as a customer service rep in a retail store, I sometimes handle a lot of customer complaints. In these situations, I always make sure I maintain a calm and friendly tone, even when the customer is upset or frustrated. I also make an effort to use positive body language, such as nodding or maintaining eye contact, to convey empathy and understanding. In one case, a customer received a defective product and was understandably upset. They were raising their voice and becoming increasingly agitated, but I remained calm and patient throughout the conversation. By maintaining a positive tone and using open body language, I was able to de-escalate the situation and work with the customer to find a solution. So that is another short, sharp example for a retail role centering around positive body language and tone of voice to communicate effectively. So those are other examples of what you can include in your answer. So the next answer will center around a specific example, which can be a very powerful way to answer this question. So this is for a marketing manager. In my previous job as a marketing manager, I had to work closely with a team of designers to create marketing materials for our clients. However, there were times when the initial designs didn't meet the client's expectations, and I had to work with the team to revise the designs based on the feedback we received. To ensure that we could deliver the best possible results, I made a point of asking for feedback from both the clients and the design team at every stage of the process. By doing this, we were able to identify and address any issues early on and make adjustments to the designs as needed. Moreover, I was always open to feedback from my colleagues and clients and willing to adjust my approach if necessary. This helped me to continually improve my communication skills and build stronger relationships with both my colleagues and my clients. In fact, several clients specifically mentioned how much they appreciated my willingness to listen to their feedback and make changes based on their input. So in that last example, I wanted to demonstrate the importance of regular contact as an effective communication tool. So you can see here where it has asking for feedback at every stage of the process to identify issues early on. Then the second part is about feedback and how taking feedback strengthens professional relationships and personal as well, to be honest, but also the outcome of that. So at the end here, it says the clients mentioned how much they appreciated feedback. In your answer, if you can include any of the impact of your effective communication, that makes your answer a little bit more memorable. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do like this video and leave a comment. If you've had a great result already, then you can also buy me a coffee here. There are details in the description below on how to do that. Now, an easy way to promote your strongest area of communication that matches with the role that you're going for is to actually review the job description before your interview and include the areas that match with your skills in your answer. So here's an example on a job description I created for an engineer. Under key responsibilities, you can see all the areas that involve effective communication and where that would be important. So let's highlight those now. So you've got acting as a liaison between the team and clients, working with project managers to ensure timely communication, keeping stakeholders informed, giving regular project updates. These are all areas where you can link your communication skills to the relevant areas of the role in your interview. So here's an example of how this is effective in an interview answer. As an engineer, although much of my role is based around technical analysis and executing engineering plans, multiple areas of my role are based around communicating effectively with various teams for a variety of reasons across all levels of management. For example, as a natural part of managing various projects, I need to keep stakeholders updated, not only in emails and reports, but sometimes in quarterly presentation updates. This requires effective communication because in order to ensure stakeholders are getting the information they need, I have to keep their motivations in mind. For example, a marketing director is going to be concerned with the areas of an engineering project that link in with what they do, as opposed to a full update covering all areas. I also act as a liaison between the team and the clients of the company. I need to ensure that communication with clients is effective. For example, in order to provide regular updates, I've suggested setting up regular meetings so clients don't have to chase chase for information. I steer away from using technical jargon that might confuse them. And I use active listening to ensure that my responses are thoughtful and specifically address what they're asking. And I also ask a lot of clarifying questions to anticipate any potential issues. So this is how I ensure consistent success with my projects. Now that answer is a little long, of course, but your answer would be shorter. Just include 2 or 3 key points and take what's relevant to the role that you are interviewing for. So you can see how I incorporated my points from earlier and how everything links to the job description. Now, in order to keep your answer relevant to the job description, you just need to review your job description beforehand and be clear what the key points are. A key phrase throughout this video and that example is, for example, used here and here in the answer. Very specific examples of how you made sure that the communication was effective. So for example, regular updates for clients, you talk about establishing regular communication channels, using clear, concise language, active listening, and anticipating potential issues. Also, areas I mentioned earlier right at the beginning of the video. So one was to separate it into parts to make it memorable. The first part of that last example in this whole section here covering communication with stakeholders. 2 was to include an example in your answer, which I just covered in that last example answer that included examples. And 3 was to reference multiple communication styles, which is here: emails, reports, and presentation updates, steering away from technical jargon to ensure clarity. So these are all various ways of communicating. And there's one last thing that you can do to guarantee interview success. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.